On Good Friday, April 16, 1954, more than 30,000 people brought London's Old Kent Road to a standstill as they tried to cram into the tiny New Cross Stadium to witness the UK's first stock car race. Even the local railway station put up notices warning passengers not to alight because they wouldn't be able to get in. Such was the success of this inaugural meeting that it sparked a golden era of stock car racing in this country. The event was staged by a flamboyant, naturalized Australian motorcycle speedway promoter by the name of Digger, who had witnessed the spectacle in America and France and decided to introduce it to England, placing an advert in the London evening newspapers saying, "Stock car drivers wanted." 50 years later, I tracked down some of those people who replied to that advert and took part in that first meeting. Among those who answered Digger's call was surgeon's daughter Tanya Crouch, an attractive, rebellious thrill-seeker who charged around the countryside in a vintage Bentley and earned her living by dynamiting tree stumps out of the ground. She went on to become one of the country's top drivers and a huge crowd puller with her no-nonsense approach. Now in her 80s, she told me, "I saw the piece in the newspaper and rang Digger. He said, 'I want a lady driver. Can you get a car ready in time?'" Race day arrived. Half of Fleet Street was in attendance, as was ex-Grand Prix driver and president of the British Racing Drivers Club, Lord Howe. Commentary was provided by well-known motoring journalist John Bolster and television announcer MacDonald Hobley. As Pete Tucker recalled, "We arrived at New Cross at about 12 o'clock, and all these people were pouring into the place, even then. When I pulled into the pits, I had never seen anything like it. All these brightly coloured machines with the French team cars, all white, lined up on one side. The pits weren't roped off, so the crowd was pressing around even though the boys were still working on the car. By about 6 o'clock, maybe even before that, no one else could get in. I had never done any form of motorsport before that, but when I took to the track for my first race, the crowd cheered and clapped us as if we had just won the World Cup." Digger put on a real good show. He was about 4 foot high, wore a Hawaiian shirt, and used to run around like a blue-arsed fly, but he ran that show with an iron fist. He was flash, flamboyant, call him what you like, but he was an out-and-out showman. Freddie Parsons also went out to race for the first time in his life in race 2, the first heat having been won by a Frenchman. "I felt fantastic," he recalled. "I went out onto the track but didn't know what to expect. There were 15 or 16 cars lined up. They had a pace car that led us away, and when you start rolling, you are bumper to bumper and 2 abreast. The roar of the engine increases, the dust starts to fly up, and you go faster and faster, and then the race starts. You are driving only 6 inches from the car in front, and the fact that you are under floodlights makes it even more exciting. The crowd went absolutely ballistic. After a few laps, I had no idea what position I was in. I was just hanging on in there, and then I saw someone waving a checkered flag at me. I thought, it must be for the chap behind, so I decided to do an extra lap. That was a big mistake, because I came around a corner, and there was a car right across the track in front of me, and I smashed into it and put myself out of the rest of the meeting." Freddie had indeed won, and in doing so became the first Englishman to win a stock car race in the UK. Tanya Crouch was doing well before she broke her gearbox, and Jackie Voss was unluckier still. He said, "I only went about 20 yards in the race when someone pushed me from behind, and I went into the fence. I woke up in hospital and couldn't move my head. I had 2 great big heavy sandbags either side of it to keep it still, and they said, 'We think you may have broken your neck.' I hadn't, but it was at least 3 weeks before I could turn my head. It didn't put me off, though, and I couldn't wait to have another go." Jackie became the chairman of the British Stock Car Drivers Association and helped form the sport's first board of control in 1959. 2 more sellout events took place at New Cross before Digger moved to the larger Haringey Stadium. Such was the early success of stock car racing that Digger banded together a group of the best drivers, hired other venues throughout the land, and took his barnstormers on tour. Within months of that first meeting, Tanya Crouch, John Goody, Pete Tucker, and Freddie, the Mad Parson, as he became known, were racing 5 or 6 times a week and earning hundreds of pounds at a time when the average weekly wage was about £8. Jackie Voss kept his day job but raced at weekends. He said, "I could earn a month's pay in one good night's racing. I told my boss, hopping for a pay rise, but he just shrugged and said, 'It's your neck.'" John Goody, who was the first Englishman to win a grand final in the UK, summed up those heady times. There was a tremendous friendship among all the drivers, and they were from all walks of life. There were some tremendous characters. Tanya and I teamed up, and within 3 months of that first meeting, we were travelling all over the country and were racing 7 nights a week. Tanya was totally fearless, and I've seen other drivers pull off the track to get out of her way. We were paid £15 just to turn up. The top prize of the evening would be about £100, but any number of weeks I was earning £1,000. In today's money, it brings you almost up to Formula One levels. It was very intense, but we had 2 very good years out of it. It was one of the most exciting periods of my life. Other promoters soon got in on the act, and within 12 months more than 80 stadia, mostly dog tracks, hosted races. At that time, everyone wanted to be a stock car racer. After just 2 years, there were so many venues, promoters and drivers that standards were diluted. Prize money dwindled to peanuts, and the crowds lost interest, as did many of the professional drivers, who could no longer earn a living. John, Tanya and Freddie all threw in the towel. Freddie regretfully explained. The sport started to dumb down, and the public got bored. Digger Pugh also bowed out, and put his showmanship skills to good use in the circus and film industries before passing away in 1969, aged 67. Stock car racing survived and continues in many guises, but it has yet to regain the popularity it enjoyed during those heady few years